We are about to hear from Chris Dillon, the man who created the internet-famous cat faucet. Has anyone heard of that? It blew up Hacker News some time ago. It was awesome. Chris invented an automatic faucet for his cat. So cat comes near, faucet turns on, cat goes away, it turns off. Because cats only ever want to drink the coldest, freshest water turned by your hand while they look at you. Chris is into a lot of hardware hacking kinds of things. He is a member of PDXRB, speaks regularly up at our meetup in Portland. And this talk is sure to please. I have actually seen a version of this, and it is fantastic. So you have a treat coming up. I want to mention real quick that I think Chris is the only person to have ever written a Redis client inside of Minecraft, like in Lua, inside of a modded Minecraft. So he could track and monitor his Minecraft nuclear reactor and get data out of it. And now he can graph that, you know, or export the data to New Relic or something, whatever he wants, which I think is pretty awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and let you all hear from Chris. A round of applause, please, for Chris Dillon.
Okay. I'm going to be talking about this animation project I did called Dream. It's done in Ruby. So this all started in 1991, and now you're gonna fall asleep because you got all these years to listen to me talk about my biography. But I'm gonna try to skip past all that setup, although it's all true and it's all part of the context, which is always the hardest thing to warm up and get the context set, you know. But I really want to focus. I really believe in this inversion and control, all these things which are really awesome right now, in my opinion, are all about you guys and not me. So it's peers and inversion of control, inversion of content, right? What would YouTube be without all you guys? So this is a show and tell, so it's hopefully entertaining, but I'm gonna get to the gem part and the library stuff, the stuff that you guys can do if you want. So I've been doing music-ish stuff. It all started, it's just a funny story, I don't know. MIDI is not changed since 1991. Which is awesome. It's legacy. I was oh, it's legacy, but it hasn't changed. And so SQL, you learn it once, and then you get that for free for the rest of your life, which is okay. So maybe don't learn all of it, but I was actually being serious. But yeah. So it started with MIDI Cakewalk. There was my first DOS machine was a 5.0 machine that turned to a Windows 3.1 box, and I got a Sound Blaster card for it. Before it didn't do sound, I guess. And it came with a joystick port, so this weird, it looks like DVI. Does anybody remember the joystick part to MIDI? Wow, okay. So it basically makes MIDI happen, your computer speaks MIDI. So then that went into Cakewalk, which was awful. That was music arrangement tool. And then, I don't know, I guess nothing really changed. And then computers got good, late 90s, I guess. And waves, wave editors, right? So Audacity, Goldwave is a shareware. You guys remember shareware? Everything's open source. So Goldwave was the thing. It was what Audacity is now. So all those details and the non-musicians or I don't know, people that are not interested or whatever. So the point is there's this history, you know, and the programming language, I could put my programming language thing up and operating systems or anything, you know, it's this chain and it changes, but you know, as you keep going to each one, you bring what you learned before, the generic stuff, lives forever. So and then it's into history. So I'm in love with Ableton Live right now, and I'm in love with Ruby, but those things aren't for the end of history. So whatever displaces Ableton Live, whatever displaces Ruby, is by definition gonna be awesome, at least to me, right? And that's good. So the point is, experience is not really repeated. I kind of hate that. You know, a guy's on a job for 10 years and he repeats the 1 year of experience over and over again. I'm sure that happens, but that's kind of depressing to me. So I don't know. I don't think experience is repeated that often. But tools change, but general patterns are forever. You get that forever. Anyway, okay, so there's like 3 threads, I guess, like in my skill set or something. There's like this audio prod thing, which is just happening by default. I'm like earning $0 American doing this. You know, it's like one of these things you can't stop doing, right? Like someone could tell you that you're not making any money. You're like, okay, it's just something you do, I guess. Graphics dev, which I'm terrible at. I did pixel art for this thing, which is a 2D array, I guess. So I guess I got by, but I don't identify myself as a designer, or a graphics person. And then Ruby, right? So, like those 3 things, I just wanted to tell you like kind of how this happened, I guess. Like sidetrack here, Ruby to me, especially in this project, meant like I got to touch on a domain and then come back out. So like a lot of people think, oh, I can prototype and then maybe I'll write it in something more serious or something. But like, I guess that's true, but you also get to like experience more things because it's faster and you don't have to worry about like pointer math or something that computers speak, I guess. So I guess you could touch on computer domains and those lower level things, but in Ruby you get to touch to like more like universe stuff, you know? So in this case, I got to touch on pixel art and animation because of Ruby. I never get this question, but I know a lot of creative people do. Like, especially, I'm sure, like Paul McCartney or something. I mean, like, you know, creative people that, like, get a lot of questions, right? So I don't get a lot of questions. I don't get this one. But, like, I know it's a common thing, and it's a hard question. I don't know. It's kind of like Jim's talk, the last talk, it was like, kind of these hard, like, how do you do it? You know, it's like, it's a hard question. I don't know. There's no good answer, like, maybe. But like for me, I get one idea for a project or like a gem or something, you know, something I want to spark, bam, it's like an itch. I want this, and I'll get to that later. Sorry, but like, you know, you have this idea, like, you know, every program has this like untitled.txt thing, right? Like Vim, empty buffer, this is Sublime, which everyone knows. I'm sorry, many people know. And like almost every tool has this like untitled thing. And I think outsiders, and I'm not trying to like make tribes, like we're programmers, but like I think outsiders think like this is where it starts, right? Like you know, I've been asked like, how do you know what to type? Like, I love that perspective, you know? Like I don't get that for myself. It's like, wow, yeah, I can see how you would think that, you know, I'm like starting out, like fresh every single time. But for me, when I'm like trying to start something, like I've already got an idea and I hit this and like, you know, you kind of see past this, sort of. And like, you know that this, like the work starts, but you're not like afraid of this. Like this is the starting point, but you're not like, oh, like it's a blank canvas. It could be anything, right? That's like a good and bad thing. Like it could be anything. Or it's like, this could be anything, right? Those are both the same state. It's a matter of perspective, I guess. But like, you've got this idea and you want it to exist, and it's just like, you know, it's going to be this like this churn and a motivation drain and all this stuff, but you're like kind of willing this thing into existence, and you're going to get like resistance or something, but you know, if you really want it, you can just keep working at it. And that's, I think, the difference between me and a lot of people that write like really amazing gems is, I think like, wow, they just keep going. They've got like, it's like discipline, right? That's the difference, I think, in execution. Anyway, so like this is the default screen for Ableton. So this is like, you boot it up and you just get all this stuff, and I'm sure it looks like, what is this even? But that's not, it's just like the editor to me. And every other tool, Photoshop, I'm sure, you guys probably already can think of your own examples. But for this particular project, it just started with this clavichord patch, like a sound that kind of sounded like a guitar, and it had I hooked up to an expression pedal, which gave me like a little bit more like expressiveness, and that just kind of carried it. It's sort of like finding an awesome gem or something that the project kind of had a little bit of like gas behind it. So I started this project. You have to name it. You know, it's untitled, so you have to name it something. I always name my project something really stupid, like, this is Dampy Patties. I don't even know why. So maybe because I'm like Irish and I live in Portland, it's like damp. I don't know. that's not it because I started right before I moved to Portland. But you know, as you can see, like I'm doing manual version control. There's some like resources that are sort of like Git. I haven't found like an in-between Git and SoundCloud yet. I should probably just buy SoundCloud. But yeah, so I'm doing manual version control right on my exports, I guess. So it's like the deployment resource or asset or something. So that's awful, but it works. But the kind of interesting thing is the project with all of its samples and recordings and stuff came out to like 1 gig. Like almost every project is like a gigabyte of sound. It's not even video, right? So it's like a lot of samples. And then the wave, when you bake it down, like you mix down, it's like 150 megs. And then you can code that as an MP3. It turns out to be 6 megs. And I think this is like a really amazing metaphor for like kind of the project because it took me about a month to do the audio, you know, with like, you know, working at it. Like you can record it in a week, but then you got to kind of make it good. So like refine, like sort of like refactoring, right? You could just type out, but it's not what you want. So like working at it, it took kind of a calendar month. It's not straight or anything. So like, you know, a gig to 6 megs is sort of like the work that you do, and then like the startup time of your application, right? Like, it's a lot of work for. Anyway, so and then the animation took me a month. So it's about 4 minutes long. So a month, whatever that ratio is, a month to 4 minutes of content. That's like the ratio. Okay. So this is the project. I'm sorry, it's off the screen. Actually, I really want it to not be off the screen, but like that first track at the top with all like the bars. You guys see all the little bars that looks like Morse code, sort of. Does everybody see that? Like the very top thing. That's a MIDI track. So like if I like exported that out, I think my DOS machine from 1991 could play that. Like MIDI hasn't changed. It's just events. It's like velocities. It's numbers on an array of keys, like a kind of like a map of keys, and they have velocities. It's just numbers, and MIDI files just events basically. So like that hasn't changed, and the rest of it's wave files, which was from Goldwave, I guess. And then that extra stuff with the wood, like the fancy stuff on the left, that's just for the screenshot. I don't even leave those up, but it looks nice, so you guys should be impressed. Okay, so that's the music stuff, which has nothing to do with Ruby. So I had this visual idea. I had this song, and it kind of has lyrics that like speaks a story. So I wanted this. This is the summon thing. Like I wanted some visuals to it. So I'd done some like graphics dev and like processing, which is sort of Java, and then processing JS, which is sort of JavaScript, and some other like Flash back in the day. But I knew Ruby, and I'd heard of Gamebox.io. I want to play with it, so I spiked on it and just kind of learned its worldview, and its worldview is like, I mean, I got lucky. It's perfect. It's like a elementary school play. So there's a stage, there's a manager, there's actors, and there's scenes. So I was going to make a non-interactive animation for the music video, which is what a music video is. So it was perfect. So I spiked on Gamebox, and I'm going to show you it. So yeah. We could keep talking about it, but I'm just going to show you. All right, so I'm going to talk about why rake works here. I'm going to go into like how the gem works, but to just start it up, it's going to create a window, but it's going to be maximized. But it really creates an application through Gosu. So this should go full screen, hopefully, and I hopefully have audio too on the laptop. This is the part of the talk where we go back to like slides, and this reminds me of we played this show in a field, and it was actually in a field, and like there was a band, and there was a DJ, and it was like a horn, just like a funk band with a DJ, which no one does, and so like he starts playing this like DJ record that's like I guess DJs buy, and it's like got all this bass, like this really produced thing. And it's like in the future, you know, and the rest of the band's like waiting. They got like the horns player holding the drums are holding the stick, the guitars, like everyone's waiting for the intro to finish. And then the live music plays, which can in no way compete with the production DJ record, you know. So it's like after this like huge bass, it's like the movie ads, right? Like Transformers 17 now playing at the local Multiplex, you know. Yeah, like the local part of the ad or something. So like now we're back to slides, so we're doing the thing that I hate. So anyway. So I want to show you the Gamebox gem. So it relies heavily on Gosu, which you guys have probably heard of, for the rendering and stuff. It builds on top of it. So the first line brew install is how you get Gosu installed, regardless. And then after that, you can install Gamebox. So this is obviously the Mac example. I'm sorry for the Windows and the Linux users, but you basically just get the native libs and then install Gamebox, and then that gives you a Gamebox command like you know a gem does or can, and then you create a new project with Gamebox new and call it Polka Justice League if you're weird, like we're gonna make an animation about Batman with a lederhosen or something. I don't know. Okay, so that gives you a structure like this, which kind of looks Rails-ish. And it's got a gem file and a rake file, which is how rake worked, the default task. And then you put all your art into data, under graphics, your sound, or yeah, your music under sound effects under sound, fonts if you want. It can use true type fonts, which is really cool. And then it even has tests, which I didn't do for this, and I suggest not doing it because otherwise you have to watch 4 minutes. Yeah, well, yeah, anyway. Like, it doesn't have a DOM, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Capybara is not going to work. So, like pixel color test. I don't know. So, yeah. You can do it. You can do it. I just didn't do it. So, paid price, manual testing. Watch the animation. Yeah. So, the tricks that this thing uses can be broken down like this. There's sprites, which is like this static cat. That's the actual PNG from the animation. Then there's the sprite sheet, which is just a sprite arranged in a grid that is a square turned rectangle by the number of frames. Does that make sense? Like a film strip. And then it knows to like animate by that box. So you have to make it square. And so that cat on her bed is breathing because of the frames, you know. Yeah, so that's the animated cat. Okay, and then tweens is the motion. So tweening is done by the tween gem, which is really awesome. It was inspired by the Flash API, sort of. And tweens are how you like move something smoothly in animation, and like you can ease in and ease out, and you can do all kinds of different styles. But like tweens are how she moves across the sidewalk, how the moon rises, how everything moves. It moves is with tweens. And then timers are we're going to talk about timers, but they're really easy. And then I've got a visual aid for Parallax to explain what Parallax is and layers. So let's talk about sprites real quick. So sprites, this is an actor. It just happens to be a sprite, but Gamebox gives you a DSL. So define actor, and it looks for assets kind of by naming convention. So if you define an actor called Starfield for like the background star, like the night sky, you need to create a Starfield PNG. And then you do mixins with has behaviors. You just give it different mixins for different properties. In this case, it has graphical, meaning it's going to have an art file. The scale is how it looks pixely, because it's a small file and it's blown up by 5x. And position gives it XY, layered gives it to Z. Okay, and I'm going to show you a few more mixins. Oh, so then when it's the Starfield symbol can be used later on at the very last line. create actor star field is because we define the actor. So hopefully this makes sense. So this is like how you would define a scene and actors. Okay, so that's just a static sprite. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there unless you tween it. If you want it to be animated, like change frames and stuff, then you just mix in the animated mix in, and it has options on it. Frame update time is like how fast it goes. That's kind of like sleep, sort of like the sleep time. So the lower that is, the faster it'll animate. And then once I think it's set to false by default, I just like throwing it in there just so I know that this is going to repeat. The cat's going to keep breathing. Thank God. So, so it has an env, an environment file, just kind of like Rails would have or something else would have. And in this case, this just finds the order of the stages and also the symbols of the stages of the previous files were used, so, and like common config and stuff. Tweens. So when I started this project, I was one of the gym creators. His name is Sean42, Sean Anderson, I think. He lives in Michigan, I believe. He was super nice, and I was telling him what I was doing, and he was like, "No one's done this with this gem." So I was like, "Hey, you know, I'm like kind of manually making tweens," and he's like, "Oh, I'll just add a tween manager." So he added this tween manager. So now this is how you do tweens. So you basically tell it the actor. In this case, we have a variable called face, and then have this hash of how we want it to change. So this was actually used for when she falls asleep. The face kind of falls off, sort of. And then a time, in case _t is the amount of time you want it to animate. So this, in short, this just makes moving and animating really, really easy. And then you give it the style. That's the tween gem. Tween, : has constants for all the different styles. So I really like that API. Anyway, so timers, this looks like a lot of code, but it works exactly like JavaScript timers. You know, you can add timer, and then you can add timer underneath that, you know, and they all just fire as you directed. It's the same thing. You can add a timer, and then inside of that timer, you can add other timers. So this is really nice for like changing scenes when the music changes, which didn't happen because of the audio problems. But yeah, I want to take his face off. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Like I made a funny mistake, which I captured in GIF form. But anyway, okay. And so then layers. You guys already know it if you know CSS. The highest layer wins. It goes in front, so you can put things in front of things. And so because now we have tweens and layers, we can actually do this parallax effect, which I made this other project to help illustrate it. So we're going to step through what a parallax system is. I think some people played games in the 80s, but maybe other people didn't. So a parallax system is just a thing that gives a parallax effect. I'm going to explain what the parallax effect looks like, and this is way verbose. So it's going to make sense at the end, but this is like our monitor. The box is our monitor. And so we're zoomed out. So like technically, I guess if we call like a viewport. So if we like put stuff on like here, it's not going to show up on the screen, right? So it's like off-screen, an off-screen actor, an off-screen buffer, an off-screen texture, call it what you want. We can't see it, but if we just happen to like line it up on the monitor so that like we've got these three actors placed here and they're not moving, then this is like the start of horizontal parallax effect, which you saw in like old school arcade games and probably recently too. But so if we start moving these things, so now we're just tweening these actors, and I killed the first one and put a new one on the end. We could do that, and you still don't see the effect yet, but this is just the motion part. Then we could like do this, I guess. We could keep creating actors, or we could just move the first one at the end. So we could just respawn, or like not kill it, but just move it when it hits some certain criteria, which is a little tricky because we're not dealing with when it's, you know, x = 0, because it's a game, it's real time, so time slips because your CPU, you know, checks something that you weren't doing. So it's a little tricky on the logic, but in this project, I've got I think a pretty good class that does this. So anyway, so now we're just moving, now we're just doing the same thing. We're just creating a chain, and we haven't gone beyond 5 actors at this point. Okay, so that probably makes sense. So now if we just add a texture, which just happens to be a seamless texture, like, you know, with no borders, then it's gonna look like, eventually, that the background is repeating. But again, we're zoomed out, so it doesn't look right. I'm sorry, this is so verbose. So now I'm shading the off-screen, and now I shade the screen all the way, so now this is like what you would actually see if this was a monitor and not a viewport. And you see it's starting to look a little bit, yeah, like, okay, so now this is the actual like Parallax system object in action. Like it's just a class that just manages the actors and just goes forever, but it still doesn't do the effect because we're zoomed out. So let's zoom out. We're gonna use bigger assets. I didn't create these. And I also don't have credits for them, so I need to update. But you see the clouds are just barely moving. And also this is an unfortunate example because it's a far away background, so like it's slow. Otherwise it looks weird. But okay, so now we're gonna put another texture just slightly in front of that, or I guess in front of that anywhere we want, and make it slightly faster. And we can put another texture in front of that represents something in front of that, something with a detail that's not blurred. And then if we wanted, we could put like water, and if we let this run for a while, you're gonna think that this is 3D, right? So this is like what they did in arcade games, and it's really cheap, and you can do it on cheap hardware, and it's pretty easy. That's the parallax effect. It's just 2D, it's just tweenings and layers, but it looks like it looks like we're on the water, right? Like we're going pretty fast, and the clouds aren't moving, but they are. Okay, that's parallax effect. All right. So another technique that you do, this timer isn't starting. I have no idea how much time I have. Okay. Like another technique you do a lot is like you do this, like you draw to off-screen buffers to help performance. And like I typically do that in other, like even I think in Objective-C projects I've done that. But, so I kind of prematurely optimized, and I tried to draw to an off-screen buffer, and this is what happened on some of my machines running Yosemite. You see that, like, that noise? Does everybody see the video noise? So like, that's just like random memory. That's like random video memory, and I have no idea why it's doing it. So the other thing is like it wasn't faster. So don't do that. Just don't draw to off-screen buffers, just draw it to the main screen, and then random objects will look, random shapes like this will look like that. Okay, so that's just some circles, and there's no tearing. That final thing on the bed, the spinny rainbow thing, that's the only procedural thing in this. The rest of it is just PNGs. So like in this case, it's a rotating line, like the computer's doing it. In other words, like the rake command is making it happen. In other words, it's gonna look different every time I run it because of CPU slipping and stuff like that. So that's like the only dream actor. This is the mistake I made with the face where I tweened in the wrong axis. So her face comes up, and I wanted her to tween slightly so it looks like she falls asleep. And the biggest mistake I made is I started my project at 640 by 480 because that's VGA, and then I wanted it widescreen so that just like all iOS devs or here or anybody that deals with pixels, all my assets like just looked broken. The parallax effect doesn't work because it doesn't line up with the viewport anymore. I've got like things floating in space. I've got no content over on the right because it got wider and there's no content. So like I was dreading this during the project. I just finished it at 640 by 480 and I was like, I'm gonna go back and like fix all the textures, and like it was irrational because it actually didn't take me that long, but I was fearing it for like, I don't know, longer than it took me. So anyway, I want to say thanks to Sean. He did a ton of work on this. I think this is a 7-year gem, which is amazing. I think it was absolutely fantastic. I didn't get stuck, and I don't think it's me. I think the docs are good. He wrote a ton of examples, and the examples got me through it. He was super nice, and he's not the only one that wrote it. He's the one I interacted with. I think he co-wrote it with someone else, and I don't know who that was or who that is, but I just want to say thanks to him. And both of those repos, the demo and the thing and everything, is there. Thank you.